Before time existed, before light broke the darkness, there was only chaos. From this chaos, everything was born: the earth, the sky, and the gods. But one would rise above them all: Zeus, the bringer of storms. His birth wasn't a miracle, it was a rebellion. In the darkness of creation, there was only chaos, a formless void. But from chaos came Gaia, the earth. She was the first of all life. Opposite her stood Uranus, the sky. Together they gave birth to the first Titans, ancient, powerful beings older than the gods. But Uranus feared his children. Afraid of losing power, he buried them deep inside the earth. Gaia cried, and her tears became rebellion. One of the Titans, Kronos, rose against his father. With a sickle made of black adamant, he cut Uranus down and claimed the throne. But Kronos was just like his father, distrustful. An ancient prophecy warned one of his children would overthrow him. So Kronos swallowed each of them: Hades, Poseidon, Hestia, Hera, Demeter. One by one, devoured. Until Rhea, his wife, gave birth to one final child, one who would change everything. Rhea could not bear it anymore. When her final child was born, she hid him on the island of Crete. She wrapped a stone in cloth and tricked Kronos. The child, Zeus, grew up in secret. He drank the milk of the divine goat Amalthea. He trained in battle, wisdom, and patience. For his destiny was greater than any Titan. In the caves of Mount Ida, more than a child was growing. A storm was gathering, a god was rising. When Zeus came of age, he began his plan. He forged alliances with Gaia, with Titans who opposed Kronos. And with a magic elixir, he forced Kronos to vomit up his siblings. Zeus freed Hades and Poseidon. Together they prepared for war, the war of the Titanomachy. 10 years the battle raged, heaven against earth, Titans against gods. Fire rained from the sky, oceans boiled, Olympus shook. And in the end, a new king of the gods stood tall. Zeus banished Kronos to Tartarus. He, Hades, and Poseidon divided the world. Zeus ruled the skies, Poseidon ruled the seas, Hades ruled the underworld. But peace was only the calm before the next storm. For in the depths, a primeval monster stirred, Typhon. And the world of gods was still young, still fragile, still full of secrets. This was just the beginning, the dawn of the Greek saga, and the rise of Zeus. The war of the gods Titanomachy begins. Before the war began, silence ruled the cosmos, a heavy silence that held the breath of every star. Deep within the caves of Mount Ida, Zeus grew stronger by the day, not only in might, but in mind and spirit. Every beat of his heart was fueled by the memory of his lost siblings. Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, and Poseidon, all swallowed by Kronos at birth. Zeus's mother Rhea, once a queen burdened with grief, stood by his side. Together they brewed a potion, dark, bitter, and laced with ancient power. Disguised as a loyal servant, Zeus delivered the poison to Kronos, whose arrogance blinded him to the danger. Kronos drank deeply. The ancient magic twisted within him, forcing him to vomit the gods he had swallowed. One by one, they emerged, battered but alive. Hestia, the gentle keeper of the hearth, reignited the fires of hope. Demeter, the Earth Mother, breathed life back into the fields. Hera, fierce and regal, stood ready to fight. Hades, cloaked in shadows, and Poseidon, master of the seas, all returned to reclaim their birthright. The siblings reunited under the banner of vengeance. Together their voices rang out, a cry of war that shattered the stillness of the heavens. But Kronos was not alone. On the jagged peaks of Mount Othrys, the ancient Titans assembled. Oceanus, whose voice rolled like thunderous waves. Hyperion, burning bright as the sun. Coeus, wise beyond measure. Creus, Nemesis, Themis, colossal beings of unfathomable strength and ancient will. For 10 years, the war raged with unmatched fury. Lightning cracked the skies, oceans churned with Poseidon's rage. and shadows engulfed entire armies. Zeus, armed with thunderbolts forged by the Cyclopes, led the charge from above. Poseidon summoned earthquakes and tidal waves. Hades wielded the darkness itself, swallowing their foes whole. Yet the Titans stood unyielding, their rage a tempest that would not be broken. Zeus understood the war could not be won by might alone. He ventured into the deepest abyss, Tartarus, where the hundred-handed giants, the Titanomachy, were imprisoned. Bound by chains forged from fear itself, they waited in eternal darkness. Zeus shattered their bonds, offering freedom and a chance for vengeance. With thunderous roars, the giants pledged their allegiance to Zeus, turning the tide of battle in favor of the Olympians. But victory was still distant. Kronos struck back with terrifying power. The wounds inflicted on the gods were deep and cruel. Poseidon was grievously injured, causing the seas to tremble and roar. Hades vanished into the shadows, hiding from the war's relentless fury. Hera was crushed beneath a mountain of rubble, her cries echoing through the battlefield. Zeus knelt beside his fallen siblings, doubt and pain clouding his mind. But Hestia's voice cut through the darkness. "You are the fire now," she said softly, "and fire burns brightest in the darkest night." Rising with renewed strength, Zeus summoned storms that tore across the heavens. Lightning became his voice, thunder his decree. The winds themselves bent to his will. The final battle loomed on the horizon. Zeus raised his thunderbolt, challenging Kronos to a duel that would decide the fate of gods and mortals alike. The world held its breath. The saga of the Olympians was far from over. The war had stretched across a decade, 10 years of gods and titans tearing the world apart. The skies had burned, the seas had risen, and the earth had cracked open beneath their feet. But now, destiny was calling. Zeus stood atop Mount Olympus, his eyes fixed on the south, where Mount Othrys loomed, the stronghold of Kronos. This was not just a battle for victory, it was a battle for the future of all existence. Kronos, the Titan king, had grown more ruthless with every loss. He wielded his scythe with fury, slicing through time itself, aging forests to dust, and turning entire valleys into wastelands. His roar alone could shake mountains. His wrath was boundless. But Zeus had something more powerful than rage. He had unity. Beside him stood Poseidon, wounded but strong, trident in hand. Hades emerged from shadow, cloaked in darkness and resolve. Hera, Demeter, and Hestia formed the heart of Olympus, unbreakable, unwavering. And from the abyss of Tartarus, 3 massive shapes rose, the Titanomachy, giants with 100 arms and 50 heads, each hand gripping a mountain-sized stone. They had once been feared by gods and titans alike. Now they fought for Zeus. The final battle began at dusk. Lightning split the sky as Zeus hurled bolt after bolt. Poseidon called forth tidal waves that swept entire legions away. Hades opened rifts that swallowed titans whole. But Kronos would not yield. He moved like a storm, striking down gods, tearing through stone and sky. He reached Zeus, and their clash shook the very fabric of the universe. The scythe of Kronos met the thunder of Olympus. Blow after blow, the father and son battled across clouds and mountaintops. Every strike lit the sky with divine fire. At the peak of the storm, Zeus rose above his father. He summoned every drop of power, every memory of pain, every breath of hope. With a cry that echoed through time, he hurled a final thunderbolt straight through Kronos' chest. The Titan king fell. The earth groaned, the sky cleared, and silence returned for a moment. The war was over. Zeus stood victorious. Kronos and the defeated Titans were cast into Tartarus, sealed behind gates forged of adamantine, guarded by the Titanomachy. But the victory came with a price. The world lay in ruins, scorched, shattered, and trembling. Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades met atop Mount Olympus. They drew lots to divide the realms. Zeus would rule the skies, Poseidon would rule the seas, Hades would rule the underworld. Thus, the age of the Olympians began. A new order rose from the ashes of the old. But peace is never eternal. For deep beneath the surface, something darker was already awakening. The saga was far from over. Enjoyed the story of the gods? Then subscribe to Greek Saga Zeus and don't miss the next episode. because it's coming faster than Zeus's thunderbolt.